The EC2-A is Zowie's updated version of the EC2, just released January 14th of this year. Some of the changes include a new coding to the mouse, which was apparently requested from users of the previous EC2, 4 new DPI settings, as well as the new Avago 3310 sensor. But before we get into the specifications, let's take a look at the packaging and what comes included. The box has changed from having the mouse, the specifications, and the how-tos labeled on the outside to a simpler and cleaner one. The box is all white with just the EC2-A and Zowie logo with nothing else. I have an issue with packaging only if the product is not properly secured in the box. It's simple and straight to the point. Inside is the EC2-A, a manual with many languages, a Zowie sticker, and an extra pair of mouse feet for when the original ones wear out. All in all, pretty standard stuff. The only difference is Zowie mice are driverless, meaning no software needed. Almost all of the settings are applied by a combination of held button presses while plugging in the device. If you own the previous EC1 or EC2 mice, just from looking at the EC2-A, you'll notice it still holds the same ergonomic shape. It's a design that was created with the help of former professional Counter-Strike 1.6 player Emil Christensen, also known as Heaton. Many people like the shape, including myself. I find this ergonomic shape to be the most comfortable in the hand for the mix of palm and claw grip I use. As of right now, Zowie only sells the EC2-A and EC1-A in black, so for those who want a white version, you'll have to wait and see if Zowie decides to bring it to the market. On Zowie's website, they list the EC2-A at 93 grams and the EC1-A at 97 grams. They're the exact same as the EC1 and 2. The weight of the mouse feels light, and compared to other ergonomic mice like the Logitech G502 at 168 grams and the Razer Death Adder Chroma at 105 grams, the EC2-A feels lighter. I used the Logitech G5 for quite a while, which was another ergonomic mouse, and even with its customizable weight, at its lightest, feels heavier due to its bulk. The way the weight is distributed evenly among the mouse is not satisfying to use, unlike on the EC2-A, which feels like it's heavier towards the back. This unevenness doesn't matter, especially if you palm grip, since you only need to lift the mouse from the front when you swipe. Plus, the new coating won't let the mouse slip when you pick it up. The coating is no longer that smooth, soft rubber texture of the EC2. It's one many have complained about. The soft rubber texture was something I personally loved because the mouse wouldn't stick to your hand and fingers every time you try to adjust it. The new coating in the EC2-A is the same on the EC2-CL and the FK models, which gives you a better grip no matter how sweaty your hands get. If you own and are using a mouse that slips through your fingers, you might want to consider the EC2-A. Of course, you'll also have to consider the type of grip you hold your mouse with. All the buttons around the mouse use the same Huano switches as the EC2. They're soft and requires very little pressure to push them down. I've read online that they're too soft to click for some, but I found them to be great and perfect for that one tap in Counter-Strike. Other mice in the Zowie lineup, like the FK, also use the Huano switches, but it's much harder to press. Every time I would click the buttons, the mouse would move a tiny bit and throw off my aim. If I had to choose between the FK or the EC2-A, I would without a doubt pick the EC2-A, for this reason alone. The side buttons, while also easy to press, has a bit of travel unlike other mice I've used. I've clicked them by accident while browsing, and I've gone back pages many times than I would have liked to, but that's just because of where my thumb was placed. While I can't recommend Zowie's EC series enough, if there was one bad thing I found about the mouse to be flawed, it's definitely the mouse wheel. In fact, the mouse wheel has been an issue on 3 of the 4 Zowie mice that I've owned, and coincidentally, they're all from the EC lineup. In my time using the mouse wheel, it felt great. The notches are solid and deep enough that when you're scrolling through it feels very satisfying. The wheel is locked in place and doesn't wobble. This was an issue with the EC2-CL that I owned. The wheel will be so loose that when trying to scroll, the wheel would shift about 2 or 3 millimeters to the right or left, and the scrolling would not register at all. The middle mouse button is easy to use and provides good feedback when pressed, and it doesn't take a lot of effort to do so. The issue with the scrolling is that it misses an action. For instance, if I scroll up a notch, the page will scroll up. Then I'll scroll down a notch and it won't register. Then back up a notch and it still won't register. Only when I scroll in the same direction twice will it register the scroll. It's something that should be fixed. My EC2, although wobbly and loose, doesn't skip notches like this. This kind of manufacturing and design imperfections is a problem that has plagued the EC lineup. There are many complaints of this on the forums and should have been fixed a long while ago. As mentioned before, the EC2-A now has 4 new DPI settings with actual steps that you can use instead of the awkward ones like the 450 on the old EC2. The new steps are 400 represented in red, 800 in violet, 1600 in blue, and 3200 in green. I prefer the 400 as I've used it pretty much all my years of playing Counter-Strike. All these settings cannot be adjusted through your computer because there's no software or drivers that are included with the mouse. All the changes you make, like the DPI settings or the polling rates, are done directly on the mouse. Changing polling rates require a hold of mouse 4 while plugging in the USB cable to set 125 Hz. Hold mouse 5 for 500 Hz, and hold mouse 4 and 5 for 1000 Hz. DPI changes can be accessed by toggling through the DPI button on the bottom of the mouse to your liking. It's perfect for the gamer traveling to LANs without the need to install software on the computers. The EC2-A uses the Avago 3310 sensor, which during my time of using the mouse I've encountered some strange movement which I was unable to record, as it stopped after about 30 seconds. The mouse cursor was oscillating in a circular motion while the mouse was on the desk without me touching it. I haven't encountered the same problem after, so I can only assume that maybe there was dust or something messing around with the lens. The liftoff distance on the Zowie website is stated at 1.5 to 1.8 millimeters. I'm actually experiencing less than that. To test this, I placed the mouse on top of 2 US dimes measured at 1.35 millimeters in thickness, and the mouse cursor wouldn't move. I don't think it's too big of an issue since you could probably get used to it. In fact, it could be more beneficial if you do. As for the tracking performance and accuracy, I found it to be just as consistent as the Avago 3090 sensor. As you can see from the tests, the 400 DPI is the most accurate in following my hand movement, having the least amount of jitter and consistency. Higher up the DPI steps, the writing and movements get larger as I try to compensate for the higher tracking sensitivity. The EC2-A is a solid mouse with not many customizable features. It has a great ergonomic shape that supports many users with different versions of palm and claw grips. The new coating, even though I prefer the old one, should appease the many that wanted a more grippy feel to their mouse. New DPI steps that now use more popular settings, so it won't be a hassle to figure out what in-game sensitivity you should be using to adjust for a strange 450 DPI step. The Huano switches on the mouse buttons feel great, and I've had no issues with them. I can only say if you receive an EC2-A with a problematic mouse wheel, you can either return it for another, hoping that you don't get the same problem, or wait until someone finds a fix for the issue that you can apply later yourself. I would highly recommend the mouse if you're looking for something solid, driverless, and extremely comfortable to use.